Hello, welcome everyone to the Good, the Bad, the Ugly podcast. Today I'm with. I'm getting. Oh, no, oh God, don't worry about that. It's fine. It's right. I know. I made a mistake, but it's fine. I'm just gonna go over it. You lot won't know what the mistake is. I know what it is. I'll watch it back later. But yeah. So welcome to the Good, the Bad, the Ugly podcast. Today we have Jennifer Donald. I want your full name.
Actually, what? Jennifer Donaldson, but Jenny
Donaldson.
is good. Donaldson.
I got it wrong already.
Yes, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Donaldson, son of Donaldson.
Who's your dad?
Well, my
Is it
dad.
Donaldson?
No, my dad's not Donaldson. That's my married name. I was a Speedwell, which is another English name.
Where are you
which is.
from?
I'm a mixed. Well, mum Guyana, dad St Vincent.
Your mum's Guyana.
Yes.
That's two today.
Yes.
That's two today. Yes, we're in Guyana.
She was from Ithaca.
Okay.
Out in the country,
Yeah.
and she was brought up in Berbice, and she's got just two brothers left now, and the rest of cousins all in Georgetown.
Georgetown. What's your mum's last name?
Ray. It was Ray.
That's the family name.
Yeah,
Ray.
W-R-O-Y.
Okay, mine's Duke and as well.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. Mum's from Guyana, she's from Buxton. Yes, mum.
Right.
This is the second time
Yes,
I have to do
right.
this now. Yes, mum. There you go. There's your shout out. Buxton. Yeah. Well, got it. Did you go to the fun day?
No.
There was a fun day down, but it was in South London.
No, it's, oh gosh, I always feel so far away from it, South London.
Yeah,
I'm north of the river. I mean, I do go south for certain things, but I always feel far away. Should that be down? Would I knock it?
Oh, yeah, you can flip
There
it
we
back
go.
up. It's fine. Yeah, no, I didn't go this year because I had my daughter, and my daughter, she had a fun day before, and if I'd let her loose again, then that would have been me running around the park, and I couldn't deal with that. But yeah, fun days. Is there a centralised fun day? There must be. We need to get on that.
Probably.
We need to make one like in Hyde Park or something.
Oh, somewhere that everybody can get to. Yeah, not just South London.
South
Yeah.
or North or West.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, because this is too. Okay, for the audience, I didn't set this up. Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah, it's just all the Guyanese people in London have just met today. So just met up today. Okay, so all three of us. So Jenny.
Yes, that's
okay,
fantastic.
Cool. Tell us about yourself. What were you doing in the Metropolitan Police? Obviously, because you were police.
Right, okay, well, taking all the way back, I joined in 1983.
Okay.
That was...
So, you joined in 1983.
Yes.
I'm not supposed to ask you how old you are, but you don't look old enough to join in 1983. Come on.
Yeah, I joined in 1983, you know, I feel every year, yes, and a couple of years from 60, so.
So, is it green tea? What is it?
Nothing usual, nothing, it's just, no, you know what, it's good genes. Mum and Dad never look their age.
I'm not going to ask your age. I'm just going to say you're, 39? I'm going with 39.
Yeah, thanks, I like that. Yeah, I like that. 39 is cool.
No one do the math. 39. But yeah, so sorry.
Yes. So I joined in 1983. Prior to that, I was a secretary, and more a PA actually. And one of my jobs, I'd worked for the Caribbean Times newspaper, which was edited by Arif Ali, who was another Guyanese.
Okay, that's four.
Yeah. And so how many we can talk about. And I just knew that really wasn't for me. I was made redundant from one particular job, and I really didn't know what to do. I mean, I didn't go the uni route. I mean, my whole schooling thing was, I was brought up in Ilford, and our particular school was very much just trying to get people in and out, and my vocation wasn't not that important. So I did stay on in the sixth form for a couple more years because I felt I needed to get extra qualifications. But secretarial sort of route I sort of fell into, basically. Felt that it wasn't going to be something I could do long term, and then, as I said, I was made redundant from my last job, and I decided that I really needed to have a career. And it was just on a phone call to a friend, actually, talking about what sort of things I could do, and we were brainstorming all different sorts of jobs, and he just came upon the thing, was, what about policing? And I thought, God, I hadn't even considered that, hadn't even thought of it. And me and my hot and sweaty self, as I normally do at the time, it's like, yeah, actually, I like that. Told my mum, what do you think? She was on board.
That's
and
good.
yeah, and so I went into the other room, took out the yellow pages. Yellow pages, for people that don't know, is one of these massive yellow directories.
Book of numbers.
Yes, numbers, telephone numbers, all businesses.
All the numbers.
Yeah. And looked up New Scotland Yard. And I'm going to fan myself here because it's quite warm and that light is killing me. And Yeah, got the number, called up that afternoon, spoke to a woman called Kim Bryan. And she said, "Are you available today?" I said, "Yeah, fine." And I'll set off. And just before I was...
It was that simple?
That was just before I left. A friend of mine knocked on the door because she was off work. And I said, "I'm going to Scotland Yard. You want to come?" She came with me. Met this woman. She was so friendly. We went through, about 3 videos. We had a talk and a whole chat. And at the end of it, she said, "Do you want me to give you an application form?" I said, "Yeah." Tried to get my friend in. She said, "Nope, my friend was not going to do it." And she said, "Take a week to fill out the form." And she said, "Then send it directly to me." And and basically the rest was history. I did have a moment going through the actual process when just before I got my date, when I knew I was already accepted, that I had gone for another job, which was actually going to be in Ilford. It's going to be in a bank, in a building society. It was around the corner from where I lived. Everything was ideal. The money was good. And I was going to take it. When I contacted her just to say, "I'm not sure if I'm going to do it." And Kim said, "Nope." She said, "Let me take you for lunch." So she took me to lunch, met her at the yard, we went to lunch, and we had this conversation. And she said, "You know what, if you don't try it, if you don't at least try it, you'll never know. You'll never know." And I'll never forget that, because I've told people that so many times throughout my career.
Yep.
If you don't try it, you'll never know, and you'd always be wondering. And I listened, and I went for it. I mean, of course, I had some sort of trepidation. I had never had any trouble with police before. I'm from a family of girls. I know I have had experienced racism before. As a child and growing up, my mum was very clear to keep telling you're going to find it when you sort of join, but that didn't deter me. Yeah. So I wasn't expecting to experience racism so quickly in the Met.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting to experience it.
Let's jump in here.
Yeah.
Just for anyone, it is a thing that there are black people out here that have not had bad experiences with the Met prior to joining the Met, because for some reason it's like, nope. And it's okay. And to the black people, it's okay that you haven't had an issue with the Met before joining the Met, or any interaction with the Metropolitan Police. Because what I find is, it comes across as some people feel shame that they haven't. They're like, "Oh, am I allowed to voice my concerns?" Because some people have said that to me. They said, "I haven't had a problem in this job, so I don't think I can come on your podcast." I'm like, no. That's the reality of life. Not everyone faces the same situation as everyone else. But yeah, it's just nice to hear that you had no problem.
Oh yeah, no, I hadn't. As I said, I think maybe because I was a girl, not having anything like that. So, no shoplifting, anything like that. My mum would have murdered me, because there's no chance of that. I think I was more frightened of my mum than I was frightened of any law.
That's how it should be.
Yeah. So I remember my mum took me up to training school. It was always my mum. My dad was behind me. He was definitely behind me, but he had his trepidations, because he was a bit worried. He's the dad of all girls, so he wants to make sure he protects us all. My mum came with me when we got on that train, on the tube, to actually go to Hendon. And just before I left her at the gate, she gave me this little prayer thing. She was very religious, and she said, "Oh, take this, keep this, keep you safe." And then she said, "Don't let them run you." That's what she said. "Don't let them run you." And she didn't say who, but also I can guess, But then I suppose them could mean anyone. It could mean the community. It could mean anyone. So I think she left it open for me to interpret it the way I wanted. So I left her with my bags and everything, and I was walking up the pathway where the statue was, and walking up towards the canteen. That's my directions. And as I walked past, I saw this gentleman walking towards me. He was wearing uniform. I thought he was an inspector, because he had a flat cap on. And because I had done my studying about, the different insignia, but he didn't have anything on his shoulders, so I couldn't work it out. And as I walked towards him, he looked at me and said, "God, there's loads of them." And I sort of turned and think, "Well, what's he?" And I looked around and nobody else was behind me. So I thought, well, he's talking to me, but I didn't actually understand what he's talking about.
Yeah.
So it was only until when I went into the hall where all the other candidates were that I saw that there were 2 other black officers in the class.
And that's loads.
Yeah, and that was loads.
Yeah,
Well, it was 2 other black officers, one guy who I ended up marrying later on, and another female, Angela, and then another young lady of mixed heritage. So, in fact, in my class, because it was split into A and B, we had 4 girls, and it was strange that the white female officer was the minority out of the females. So
That was back when?
83. Yeah,
That's good.
In 83. So I mean that was the most though. I think lots of classes might have had 1 or 2 or something, and but I think 83 was quite integral year actually, because we had it was obviously myself, Chris and Angela, and then I think an intake before was Paul Wilson, and I think before that, I don't know how many intakes before that, maybe 1 or 2, was Leroy Logan. So we all later on, yeah, because we, I was one of the founder members of the BPA.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you should lead with this.
Yeah.
Oh, you're the founding
one of the founder members. Yeah.
That's amazing. Can I just say thank you?
Oh,
Yeah. Thank you for that, because, as I've said, I'll try to explain to people, and a lot of the everyday people, non-police officers, Jesus Christ, my vocabulary's going out the window. Yeah, don't understand how much work you did for black police officers now. If you guys didn't do what you did before, would I even be here? That's the question. Would I even? Representation matters so much, and so I just say thank you for doing all that, all the stuff that you've done, and just being there, it matters. And yeah, but sorry, continue.
That's no worries. Right, yeah, I suppose at that time I didn't really realise how important it was going to be, but so training school was, I found, an experience for me. I think I was quite homesick. I didn't enjoy the A-star reports and all these different reports you had to sort of learn verbatim. I suppose I don't learn that way. It was just learning the words, and you had to, you couldn't get anything wrong in it, and I really didn't enjoy it. And I remember I failed one progress test quite early on, and the stick I got from the inspector, I mean, he was actually trying to get me to leave. But I remember thinking, no, I remember saying to myself, they would have to march me out, physically take me out. Yeah. I think a lot of it would have been like the shame. How can I tell my mum that I didn't make it through training school? And I didn't want to let myself down. But I just thought there's no way. And it was basically because I was homesick, and I managed to sort of get it sorted out in my head. But early days, I mean, I used to have my hair in braids all the way back, all neatly done, in a nice bun. I'd followed all the instructions. I remember one of the instructors, the drill sergeant, he said, "Are you allowed to have that hairstyle, miss?" I remember looking at him and saying, "Yes." Because there was nothing written. There was nothing written for black women. There was nothing there. All it said, you had to have your hair above your collar in a neat bun, and that's what it was.
Pretty much the same rules now, isn't it?
Yeah. It's funny, the instructions reading that women are not allowed to wear black bras. I mean, I laughed at that, because I thought being a black woman wearing a white bra would be the totally different, it would show up. So I remember thinking, disregarding that, because although, the Met wanted to include a lot more sort of black and brown people in, I think it almost felt like it was an afterthought. Hadn't really thought, how are we going to get people...
Yeah. It was just let's bring some black people in.
Yeah.
And then that was it. It was like, how are we going to facilitate them?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just the same, no? They'll figure it out themselves.
Yeah, and I didn't filter through to the staff or the people there. Didn't really filter into, people's psyche. So, I was, got through. I think it must have been about week 13 when I think things started sort of clicking for me, and sort of getting through. I didn't like the militaristic side of it, and it was getting to the point that we were about to come to our last part of training, and we had the exams, and I'd passed it. I did really, really well in the exam, which I was like, yes. And I remember reading my report, saying, this officer nearly failed at the beginning, and it was a really nice little report sort of thing anyway. And we were on security patrols, and that weekend, and then I stayed for the weekend, and I remember going into the canteen because people were sort of studying and everything. And as I've gone in, the whole canteen was all silent and had a TV on, and it was a Harrods bombing. So 6 people got killed, 3 police officers, 1 female. And I remember calling home because obviously I have mobiles. I'd call on the phone in our on our landing and called my parents. My dad answered the phone. My dad was, Jenny, leave. He was telling me to leave. That was it. He wanted me to leave. And I remember saying, no, Dad, I'm not leaving. No, I'm not leaving. And he was so upset. That was it. He just, I think it dawned on him how dangerous it was. So we were about to be given our postings where we wanted to, where we were going to go. Not wanted, we didn't have a choice. I know they said, where would you like to go? That was a nonsense because they were going to put you, we're going to put you. Yeah. And I remember having this fear, thinking, oh my God, please not Brixton, please not Brixton. And I didn't want to go to Brixton.
How come?
There's too many black people. And that sounds horrible and awful. I just thought I needed to get into the police, and I needed to do that. And I knew the reason why I wanted to do it. I wanted to sort of do good for the community. I wanted to, but I just felt at that time, so the criticism that I would have got from my own community would have been way too much. Yeah. I was 19 years old. And I remember thinking, I was paranoid about, oh my God, if I go to Brixton, how would I, face that? And I remember thinking, oh my God, not Brixton. And then I got C District, which was Vine Street, which is no longer there, in the heart of the West End. Yeah. And I remember thinking, okay, that's okay, I can manage that.
They say the West End's easy. Everyone's happy.
You know what? What I liked about the West End is that they had standards, high standards. I don't know about it now, but because it was, very much public facing. It was very much sort of tourist. There was lots of things we didn't do. I mean, I had 15 years service before I did a sudden death.
Oh, it's a bit different now.
Domestic. I dealt with 1 domestic. Because you don't have all that. We did loads of shoplifters, did a couple of murders and that kind of stuff, but nothing like that. So it's definitely a different beast working in the West End. But I suppose it didn't save me from getting, abuse from my own community, because that's where everybody went.
Yes.
But that was, I was able to sort of cope with that actually, and I really enjoyed that interaction when the young guys would come up to me and have a go. Anyway, I've gone forward a bit. But I remember when I first got to Vine Street, well, we were taken to West End Central, the new probationers, so 6 of us all together, and we were lined up in front of our new commander, Ted Stowe. He was a real old school. I mean, he was a proper dinosaur.
Because I'm thinking to myself, at that time, when I say old school, I'm talking about the guys probably in the 90s. So you're talking about the 70s. And that was before Pace. It was actually, because Pace came in after. Yep. So, we'll judge his rules. I had to learn a new caution. But, he had us lined up in front of us, and he basically ripped us apart. We were brand new probationers, and then one of the guys, I'll never forget, he was going for his file, and he was saying, "Oh, social workers, your parents are social." I effing hate social workers, and I remember thinking, "Oh my God!" And then out of the blue, he said, "Do you masturbate?" And I feel my knees started to sort of wobble, and I thought, "Why is he even saying that?" And my colleague said, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "Well, you're human, aren't you?" And then he basically went through the line, and he ripped us all apart. And then when it got to me, he had this old English plaque on the wall, and he wanted me to read it, and I was nervous, and I was having trouble reading it, and I was going, "Oh ye," whatever it was saying. He goes, "Oh, shut up, you stupid woman, and sit down." And it was a whole thing of humiliation. That's crazy.
And you couldn't have said anything. And then I soon learned that his whole thing about women in the area cars, women weren't allowed in the area cars because he didn't see the point of female officers. We had so many rules extra for the girls. There were it was a lot. It was a lot, but it was funny though, and maybe because I'd already experienced racism as a child and growing up, it was just something else I knew I had to deal with. There's something else, you know. And I think for the first 2 years, probably didn't really say anything. Didn't say anything. It was because we knew quickly that you would be the one that was identified with a chip on your shoulder. And
I wouldn't have lasted.
Yeah. It definitely took. I mean, I didn't hear anyone speak out about anything. I remember we would have continuation training.
Yeah. And
we were sitting down in the class. It was just trying to work out how I'm going to deal with this. And we were all in the classroom together, all the sort of like new probationers. And the sergeant was going through a scenario. He was giving us a scenario. He said, okay, so you're walking down a road and a coon mobile drives past you. A coon mobile. Coon.
Sorry, I heard what you said.
Yeah,
I had to make
sure.
Do you know what? This is bringing back flashbacks of the Paul Wilson.
Yeah.
Why am I living you guys' trauma? You just triggered me. Sorry, go on.
No. So but thing is that it was that era, and I remember thinking, oh my God, and I sort of like looked down because I didn't really know how to sort of like react, and you know I started feeling a bit hot, and then the other officers in the class started looking at me because trying to see how I was reacting because I didn't know how to react. And then he looked at me because he can see that I wasn't happy about it. I was furious. I was choked up here. I was mad. And then he said, well, if you can't take it here, love, how you can take it in the street? So that's how it would twist it around as well, you know. But, you know, it was, you know, and there was lots of people who would refer to, you know, oh, they saw a spade down the road and such and such. Present company accepted. That was the next saying after, and you know that there was a lot of that, and then we had a whole thing about me being female because there was a whole. I'd heard about it. I'd heard about them stamping the backsides of new officers, and when I got to Vine Street, I was aware of it. And then one of the officers on my team said, "Oh, Jenny, you know what we do to new probationers? We stamp them on the backside." And I was quick. I said, "There's no point. You won't show." And you know, he took my word for it because I tell you, there was no way on this earth that anybody was pulling down no knickers, no tights, no nothing to stamp my backside. It wasn't happening. It was not happening. It was not. Thankfully, I hadn't witnessed it, and I'd been approached, and they basically took my word for it. And I just thought, I'm not doing that. We're not doing this. We're not. No,
this is what I say.
It would have been a fight.
To people all the time. When people say that you put yourself out there, Dom, and it must be so difficult. I'm like, have you heard the stories of the people before me? This is easy. The people that attack me, it's normally verbal. I can handle verbals. It's not a problem. In the Metropolitan Police right now, stuff like, well, I want to say stuff like that doesn't happen, but I know there's stuff very close to that does happen. And people will probably come forward and tell me in specialist units, those units that I shall not name, because I don't like to say their names. My therapist doesn't like to say it anymore. So,
Oh, right. So you have a therapist?
No, well, my therapist is in over
there.
Oh,
right. Okay. You know what? You do need to talk. And I think that's what saved me. You need to
the Met need
share.
Their own. The Met should have, well, they do. They have the, through HR or whatever. I don't like, not whatever, but you know what I mean.
You can go counselling, but I mean.
Okay, here's my suggestion. My suggestion is the Metropolitan Police should have a full-time counsellors centralised, so in NSY, in all of the main areas that we police, and you should be able to go and talk to the therapist, counsellor, whatever, anytime you want. And that there's no, there's a call. Yeah. The call don't matter. If I need to talk to a counsellor, I need to talk to a counsellor, because we go through traumatising things every single day, and I'm expected to be okay.
I mean, it could be like the Americans. You see lots of those American shows, don't you? And they have like a therapist affiliated to the station. I mean, you know what? They would definitely, you know, be properly employed. They probably wouldn't have enough for one each. You know,
have no time.
No, they would be so busy. Absolutely. But the fact was someone sent me something. I was reading something, and I was reading in experiences. There was some kind of research talking about Black and Asian women in the service, and sort of years ago, and our experiences. And I remember read one particular quote, and I thought, oh my God, I could have said that myself, because I remember saying that to myself. There were times when people will do and say things, and I didn't know whether it's because I was Black or I was female. Or even after probationary, because I was a scourge.
Yeah. That still applies now,
Yeah.
Right? Like 100%.
It's like driving tests, isn't it? Yeah. People forget that they were once a learner.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's that should be written down somewhere.
Yeah.
I need to remember that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna write it down. That quote applies to everyone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Oh, say it again for me. So she's gonna write it down.
Oh right, yeah. There were times when I didn't know if I'd been treated differently because I was Black or female, or at times if I was